Here is something nobody in the drinks industry wants you to figure out. The most successful vodka launch in modern history had almost nothing to do with vodka. And the man at the center of it, the one who made billions, who built the whole empire, is currently sitting in a federal detention facility awaiting trial on charges that include racketeering and sex trafficking. His name is Sean Combs. And before we even get into the vodka, you need to understand something about him. Because in about 60 seconds, this stops being a story about a bottle. It becomes a story about power, image laundering, and a corporate giant that made a calculated bet and then ran when the bill came due. Stay with me. The first twist is already here. Let's start in the late 1990s. Not with vodka, with reputation. By 1997, Sean Combs, known publicly as Puff Daddy, later as P. Diddy, later just Diddy, was one of the most recognized names in American music. He had founded Bad Boy Records. He had launched the careers of Notorious B.I.G., Mary J. Blige, and Usher. He was throwing parties in the Hamptons that paparazzi fought to cover. Forbes had him on wealth lists. He was the living proof that hip-hop had not just entered mainstream culture, it had taken it over. But there were problems underneath the surface. In 1999, a nightclub shooting in New York City put Combs in court on weapons charges. He was acquitted, but the case lasted years and consumed his public profile. His relationship with Jennifer Lopez ended under intense media scrutiny. His label was losing artists. The cultural moment that had made him untouchable was shifting. By the early 2000s, Diddy needed a reinvention. Not just a new album or a new tour, a structural reinvention. Something that would separate the name Diddy from music scandals and legal clouds and anchor it to something clean, something aspirational, something you could hold in your hand. Enter Ciroc, but not yet the way you think. In 2003, a British multinational called Diageo, the company that quietly owns Johnnie Walker, Guinness, Captain Morgan, and Don Julio, among dozens of others, launched a new vodka product. They approached a French distillery and gave a simple brief: build something ultra premium, different from everything else, able to compete with Grey Goose, which had just demonstrated you could charge $40 for vodka purely through perception engineering. The distillery's answer was grapes. Now, here's the loophole that made this entire story possible. Under United States federal law, vodka is defined as a neutral spirit without distinctive character, aroma, taste, or color. The regulation specifies nothing about what the base ingredient must be. So Diageo's legal team found the gap. If you take wine grapes, distill them 5 times, and strip every trace of flavor out of the result, the law allows you to call it vodka. The brand they built around this was Ciroc. Ciroc is actually derived from 2 French words, cîme, meaning peak, and roc, meaning rock, a reference to the Gaillac vineyards in southern France where the grapes were sourced. They launched it in 2003 with a premium price, French branding, celebrity placements, and a full national distribution push through Diageo's existing infrastructure. And it completely failed. For 5 years, Ciroc averaged roughly 40,000 cases per year in the United States. Grey Goose, by comparison, was moving millions. The grape angle, which was supposed to make Ciroc distinctive, was instead confusing customers. When vodka drinkers hear distilled from grapes, their brain fires off a warning. Is this wine? Is this brandy? Is it even real vodka? Confusion is not a purchase trigger. Confusion is a shelf pass. Diageo had poured enormous resources into this product. It was dying quietly. And that is exactly when Diddy came back into the picture. By 2007, Sean Combs had rebuilt parts of his brand, but needed the next level. He wasn't looking for a paycheck. He was looking for architecture, a structure that would turn his cultural influence into permanent, compounding financial capital, something that couldn't be canceled with a magazine headline. Diageo and Combs struck a deal in 2007 that was genuinely unprecedented. Not a standard celebrity endorsement, not a contract where Diddy got paid per appearance. A profit-sharing arrangement. Combs would receive 50% of all U.S. profits from Ciroc in exchange for leading all marketing and cultural positioning. No ownership of the brand, no equity stake, just half the cash flow for as long as the brand grew. For Diageo, this was cold corporate logic. They had a dying product and no idea how to save it. Combs had a proven ability to make things feel aspirational. The terms were structured so that if Ciroc failed, Diageo lost nothing extra. If it succeeded, they split the upside with a man who had no downside risk. Here's what nobody said out loud in the press releases. Ciroc was about to become the most visible rehabilitation project in entertainment history. Not for the vodka, for the man holding the bottle. Combs understood something about perception that most marketing departments still haven't figured out. He didn't market the liquid. He didn't market grapes. He didn't market France or the distillery or the 5 times distillation process. He marketed the feeling of already having won. Every appearance at a red carpet event, Ciroc in hand. Every music video with a club scene, Ciroc on the table. Every celebrity birthday party, every award show after party, every rooftop at Fashion Week. Ciroc bottles, sparklers attached, carried out on trays like trophies. He created something called the White Party, an annual event in the Hamptons, all-white dress code, invitation only, surrounded by cameras. It generated more cultural press coverage than most national advertising campaigns could purchase. And then he did the move that turned the whole system into a machine. He didn't just market to consumers, he marketed to clubs. Free cases were sent to high-end venues in New York, Miami, Los Angeles, Atlanta. Bartenders were trained specifically on Ciroc cocktails. Bottle service presentations were choreographed. Sparklers, dry ice, theatrical entrances designed to make a $100 bottle feel like it was worth 3 times that. When you walked into the right clubs between 2009 and 2014, ordering anything other than Ciroc felt like admitting you hadn't made it yet. The numbers that followed belong in a business school case study for the wrong reasons. In 2007, before the partnership, 40,000 cases. By 2008, 200,000 cases. By 2010, 1 million cases. By 2012, 2.4 million cases. That is approximately 6,000% growth in 5 years. Nothing about the liquid changed. The grapes were still there. The loophole was still in place. The only thing that changed was who was holding the bottle and what holding it was supposed to say about you. Combs was personally earning over $60 million per year from this arrangement at its peak. He put no money into the brand. He invested nothing in production. He showed up and an entire culture followed. But let's pause here, because this is the part that the official story skips. Ciroc's explosion didn't just make Diddy rich, it made him untouchable again. Every magazine profile of Combs from 2009 onward led with his business empire. Not his music, not his label, his brands, his equity, his partnerships. The nightclub shooting of 1999, forgotten. The acquittal, the legal years, the relationship scandals buried under quarterly sales figures and Forbes business rankings. This is what brand architecture can do that a publicist cannot. You don't need to argue that someone is trustworthy, you just need the right product in enough hands at the right moments in front of the right cameras. The bottle does the talking, and Diageo knew exactly what they were getting. They were lending the infrastructure of a billion-dollar spirits company to a celebrity rehabilitation operation and taking 50% of every dollar that operation generated. It worked for 17 years, and then it broke all at once. In November 2023, Cassie Ventura, Combs' former partner, filed a civil lawsuit with allegations of sustained abuse and coercion. The case settled within 24 hours. That speed was not a sign of innocence. It was a sign of how much the other side wanted the details to stay sealed. More lawsuits followed, more names, more allegations spanning years. In March 2024, federal authorities raided Combs' properties in Los Angeles and Miami simultaneously. Homeland Security agents, not local police. That distinction matters. Federal investigations move slowly and only become visible when the evidence is already substantial. In September 2024, Sean Combs was arrested in New York City. The federal indictment that followed included racketeering charges and sex trafficking allegations, a document that described not isolated incidents but a systematic operation maintained over years. Overnight, the man who whose face had been the entire identity of Ciroc for 17 years, became the one name no corporation wanted attached to its product. Diageo had already started pulling campaigns in January 2024. After the arrest, the erasure accelerated, social media posts deleted, press photos scrubbed, marketing materials pulled from every platform. 17 years of co-branding removed as fast as a legal team could operate. But here's the problem with erasing someone who is the brand. You don't just lose a spokesperson, you lose the answer to the question, why does this bottle mean anything? Grey Goose means French elegance. Tito's means handcrafted American authenticity. Belvedere means Polish heritage and tradition. These brands can lose their founders, their partners, their agency relationships, and they survive because the meaning lives in the product story, not in a person. Ciroc meant Diddy. It had always meant Diddy. That was the trade Diageo made in 2007. They got explosive growth at the cost of permanent brand dependency. And when the dependency became a liability, the whole structure collapsed like a building with no foundation. In the fiscal year ending June 2024, Ciroc's net sales in North America fell 28% year over year. By early 2025, further reporting showed the brand down 32% in organic net sales, the worst performance of any major label in Diageo's entire global portfolio. By December 2024, Bloomberg reported that Diageo was quietly exploring a sale. No press conference, no announcement. Private conversations with potential acquirers, trying to find someone willing to take on a brand with no identity and a catastrophic association. Nobody bought it. And then in April 2025, Diageo made its closing move. They traded Ciroc, not sold, traded, transferring North American rights into a joint venture in exchange for a controlling stake in Lobo 1707. A tequila brand connected to LeBron James through a company called Main Street Advisors. Read that carefully. A brand that once generated over $400 million in annual revenue, traded for a tequila most Americans have never tasted. That is not a pivot strategy. That is a controlled demolition. And here's the uncomfortable truth that this entire story forces you to confront. Diageo didn't stumble into this. They built a product they knew was fragile. They handed its entire identity to one man, collected the profits for 17 years, and when the association became a legal and reputational catastrophe, they discarded it and immediately looked for the next celebrity to repeat the cycle with. LeBron James is not Diddy, but the architecture is identical. A corporate spirits giant, a celebrity with cultural reach, a profit-sharing structure, and a product whose value lives entirely in the perception of who's holding it. The liquid in the Ciroc bottle never changed. From 2003 to today, it has always been grape distillate, legally vodka under U.S. law, technically brandy by the standards of most of the world. The loophole never closed. The grapes are still there. What changed was who you thought you were when you ordered it. And that is the real story of Ciroc. Not a vodka brand, not a celebrity partnership, a machine for manufacturing aspiration. Built on a legal technicality, powered by a man who needed rehabilitation and abandoned the moment the fiction became too expensive to maintain. The brands you trust are often built exactly this way, not on what's inside, on who's holding the outside. And now that you can see the mechanism, you'll notice it everywhere. If this kind of hidden economic machinery is something you want to go deeper on, the next video pulls apart how the luxury goods industry runs the exact same playbook at 100 times the scale. It's already up. Go watch it.